There are many concerns about schools returning in the fall and what that experience will be like for students. Some teachers want to see a full-time return, while others are advocating for a hybrid model of online and in-person work. Many Canadians are cautious when it comes to any return. A poll conducted by Nanos Research at the end of June found that 52% of Ontarians were comfortable or somewhat comfortable with a return in September. A survey last week by Campaign Research for the Toronto Star corroborated these findings, with about 23% of respondents supporting in-class only learning. Well, I'm joined now by two teachers. Tracy Schultes is a high school teacher at London Central Secondary School. Karen Walkie is a grades 1 and 2 teacher at Ryerson Public School, both in London, Ontario. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Tracy, let's start with you. We have so much I'd like to ask you about, but I know that many of your students would have graduated last month without their peers. And if online learning continues in September, I wonder, what challenges do you foresee?
Well, it was really sad to have the year end for the grade 12 students who missed all of those milestones. Their pancake breakfast, the prom, saying goodbye to each other, because there's so much more to high school, especially in that graduating year, than just the learning. There's, peers are so important to adolescents, and they missed out on that. And that's one of my biggest concerns about online learning. There's lots of limitations to it, not the least of which is that lack of social interaction. And I did get feedback from students in that emergency learning period that I'd say almost all of them wished that they were back in the classroom. And not just for the knowledge and the learning, but for those really critical social interactions that are really what is the most important thing for them in high school.
Of course, navigating all of that social we all remember so well is a big part of high school. And Karen, to you, your students are at the opposite end of the spectrum. They're at the very beginning of their schooling, and developmentally, I wonder, how important is it for them to be back in a physical classroom together?
Well, I think for me, the mental health of these students is important to be in the classroom, like as with Tracy's students. Also, it's very hard with young students to learn online because a lot of what we are doing with them in the classroom is hands-on activities where they're using manipulatives and other resources like books and blocks, and that's a big part of their learning.
And when I think of that, Karen, and I think of all the little hands on all of those things, how do you possibly manage the cleaning protocols with that? Is that the kind of thing that you're having to think about now?
Well, until we find out which model or which scenario we're going to go with, and what will be allowed in our classrooms, we really can't do any planning around that. So that is a big concern for myself and my colleagues at this time.
Tracy, I know that you have all been told to plan for 3 different scenarios: online, or full-time in class, or a hybrid combo of both. And I gather you're not going to find out, we're hearing from the province, until sometime in August. So you may even have less than a month. How do you prepare for your 3 scenarios?
Well, if there's a full return to class, then, teachers prepare throughout the summer. So that will sort of be business as usual. And the challenges will just be navigating and enforcing the rules and the protocols that come into place. If it's full online learning, that really presents challenges because online learning is an art in itself. It's different from the emergency learning that we did from March to the end of June. And to craft a program, a fully online program, that takes a lot of experience and expertise to develop engaging activities that keep students engaged. That's really difficult. The hybrid model, I can see that working, but once again, it's how much time are we going to have with students and how much learning can they do in that online model.
Tracy, you had to test drive online learning in their last few months of school. Did you notice a loss in skills among some of your students?
Well, I think with the grade 12s, part of the issue is, and I teach at a school that is a non-semestered school, so they could have up to 8 subjects. So the students felt inundated with assignments, and they felt that they were just overwhelmed, and that can be demotivating as well. So it is much different from when you're in the classroom, when you can have your peers helping you out, you can ask questions of your teacher in real time. And so I think like Karen said, the mental health aspect of it is really important, but also just how can we craft meaningful lessons and deliver them online with all of the limitations that come with sitting in front of a computer.
Karen, we know teenagers may be able to stick to or at least understand social distancing in a classroom setting. If your kids all go back to class, I can imagine the difficulty you would have, and even navigating kids going to the bathroom down the hall when they're in grade 1. What kinds of challenges do you foresee?
I see exactly that. It's going to be difficult to even support their learning with limited resources, the books, the blocks, all the math manipulatives. Just trying to, as you said, going to the washroom. Primary children, when they need to use the washroom, they need to not go now. We can't have just regulated bathroom breaks. That won't work for us. So that part's really difficult. I'm just concerned if it is a hybrid model also. My students are limited in their ability to read the lessons. They need adult support to help them navigate through the lessons that we put online. And parents are often working from home. So I'm not sure how that, in this emergency situation that we had in the spring, we all did our best. But going forward, there's a number of concerns. In particular, I'm concerned about the students with special needs for the online learning. They have unique needs and abilities, and some are nonverbal. So they rely on the physical interaction.
And you make a great point, Karen, about the fact that unlike the beginning of the pandemic, when many adults were all at home in emergency measures, many of those parents are heading back to work and so won't be, as you say, around to be the special helpers for their children. Tracy, we know that students of all ages, school is important for that social development, as you mentioned. I wonder what your concerns are when it comes to the mental health of teenagers. And it's something that you must be able to see and pick up on when you are one-on-one in the classroom that online, of course, you wouldn't be able necessarily to pick up.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, teachers don't just do assessments through tests and essays and labs. We interact with our students in the classroom, so we have that sense of who our students are. And that's one of the most enriching parts of being a teacher, is getting to know your students, developing relationships with them. And we can see through their interactions with others, through their interactions with us, how they're developing. We can pick up on things. And that's really difficult to do online, especially if a student is wanting to maybe hide some of those struggles that they're having. So it is really difficult, but I think the interaction with their peers and being able to learn all those skills that are so important in high school, doing food labs, doing chemistry labs, doing the school show. It's all of those things that make such a rich life for high school students. And when they miss out on all of those extracurriculars and all of those practical skills, that's what I'm really concerned about as well with an online model.
I'm almost out of time on this, but Karen, to you for a final thought then. I saw a study recently that polled teachers about how they are feeling about their own experience going forward. We've talked about the mental health of the students, but what are some of your concerns as you look at the stress this is going to be placing, especially if you're in a hybrid model, on you and your colleagues?
I think it's like the rest of the world. We all need to go back, and we have the same concerns like anybody would have right now going back to work during the pandemic time. But in particular, I think I would like to see more professional development to learn some of these online learning platforms such as Brightspace, Google Classrooms. So hopefully we'll get some more of that in place before, if we have to go back, because we have to be ready to switch, I think. Adaptability is going to be really important this year. We may have to change from one model to the next very quickly.
You make an excellent point. We're being told that with everything, aren't we? Whether it's bars or schools. 1 or 2 months in, things may need to go backwards, as we've seen in some other countries. I wish we could talk for longer, but it's so important to get your insights today. Thank you both for your time this morning, and we wish you all the best.
Thanks, you very
Jen.
much.
Tracy Schultis is a high school teacher at London Central Secondary School, and Karen Walkie is a grades 1 and 2 teacher at Ryerson Public School, both joining us from London, Ontario.